It's hard to tell if this movie was written specifically for Mel Gibson or if he was just the perfect person for the part. Hi, I'm a legal priest and welcome to The Underhold. Blood Father is an action crime movie with a lot of drama too that just dropped on Netflix this weekend. It stars Mel Gibson in the central role as John Link, an ex-con on probation and in alcohol recovery. John Link has an estranged daughter named Lydia. Lydia, played by Erin Moriarty, she re-enters John's life after she accidentally shoots her boyfriend in the head. Now, she shot him in the head on accident, but it was during some nefarious drug cartel activities, essentially. She re-enters John Link's life seeking safety. So now Link and Lydia have to survive on the run from cartel, Sicario, which is a hitman, and law enforcement. And I have to say, this is my favorite style of Mel Gibson. Like, he's gruff, he's mean, he's ultimately likable. Oh, boy's jacked. Like, pretty hardcore. I was like shocked. I was like, whoa, one of those shocking things. He's got kind of a little bit of his Porter character from Payback, and also his more recent driver character that he was in Get the Gringo, a lot more recently. And I really think he'd make a cool Old Man Logan if they were to take that Logan X-Men franchise more in that direction like they did with the Logan movie, because there's an Old Man Logan comic. And I always thought that Mel Gibson, even though he didn't seem like it in the past, I always thought he'd make a good Wolverine. He has some intensity in some scenes. I thought about it all the way back in Maverick. There was a part where I think he was hanging over a cliff and he looked furious. And aside from the blue eyes, I was like, man, that makes me think of Wolverine. Or I also think it would be cool if he did like a fairy tale-ish Last Stand as Mad Max, kind of the way he is now. We can dream, right? Probably ain't gonna happen, but I still think it would be cool. Now, to get directly into the movie itself, the dialogue's pretty good in Blood Father. John Link has a sponsor for his alcohol recovery, played by William H. Macy. And pretty early on, they have, shows really good banter, really good dialogue, and that carries through a lot of the rest of the film. The only parts where the dialogue maybe didn't work for me was there was a couple lines from Lydia that just seemed a little odd. I couldn't quite gather if it was the way it was written or the way it was delivered. I'm going to err on the side of the way it was written, though. And I say that because Erin Moriarty, who plays Lydia, has been pretty good in a lot of other things I've seen her in. Mainly, she's on The Boys on Amazon Prime. Pretty good show itself. On Shudder, there's this little low-budget movie called Monster Party that's pretty good. And it kind of has a triple threat of like script, acting, and action. And it comes across as a good drama too. There's a really good relationship between John Link and his daughter Lydia. I'm also a sucker for dingy crime stories like this. It's almost kind of a tale out of a Stray Bullets comic book, for those of you who might know, but very pulpy feel at times. And it's not wall-to-wall action, but when the action hits, it hits hard and it escalates quick, and I'm totally down for that. A big highlight for me was the Sicario or Hitman. Correct me if I have that wrong. I'm pretty sure that's... This Sicario in the film had this really striking presence. And it made me think back to first seeing Danny Trejo in Desperado. I have seen Danny Trejo before Desperado, but he still had a mystique about them that wasn't necessarily diffused a bit by being in comedy and stuff. I mean, nothing against Danny Trejo. I love Danny Trejo. But when I first saw him in Desperado, there was a mystique about him. And this Sicario gave me that same feeling. Maybe even more so. And I'd like to just round this off talking about the score. I looked up the guy who did the score and what he's done before, and he's done a lot before, but just nothing that really came to mind too much. But it really excelled in this film because, even though you don't necessarily notice the score all the time, it's just slightly complimentary. It definitely doesn't stick out like a sore thumb like being bad. And when it does pick up at these right moments and gets intense, it's very interesting and very cool. So I'm keeping his name in my head, or, it's like something Faulkner. I'm sure I'll put a thing right here that says what his actual name is. But I'm going to keep that in my head to see what else he does in the future, because I think that, he's got even more of a good future ahead of him. So to say overall how I liked this film, I don't have a rating system or stars or a gimmick yet, so I'm just going to say it's a real horror show. Really, I dug it quite a bit. You're going to get that good dose of drama, hard-hitting action like it really punches, and then just that snappy dialogue, clever dialogue. I would say everybody being stuck at home right now, put some of that old school Jiffy on the stove, fire up your Netflix app to watch the film, and just sit down, pretend like movie theaters still existed. So that part was the review itself. But specifically for this, I'm separating a couple of little themes to this sidebar here after the review. And I was originally going to go into this critique not talking about Mel Gibson's personal life, the alcoholism, saying anti-Semitic things, or his run-ins with law enforcement. Like, I feel like I know some stuff about those situations, but I'm definitely not an expert, and I'm sure I'd mess it up. It's never been too much of an interest to me, so I don't know all the details, and it seems to get a little convoluted. Blood Father has some relevant themes and issues that do pertain to personal life and media, current events, at least current events of the past. And this movie's not made in a vacuum, so I'm just addressing little bits of it here at the end. Some of this stuff is the fact that, John Link and Mel Gibson, they both have to deal with past mistakes, consequences, their behavior, not the least of which is alcoholism. Now, going to prison like John Link is different than just getting, blacklisted in Hollywood. I'm not going to say that there's an exact equation there, but there is for sure some generalized parallels between the two. This tale conveys that you can be genuinely sorry for your past, but redemption isn't owed to you, and neither is forgiveness. These characters just have to better themselves, acknowledge their past, and learn from it. This John Link role really plays into the actor Mel Gibson, and I do think that was completely intentional. I think it's written to play into that. And it may have been stunt casting, whether the screenplay script was like this in its original form and they just felt like it was best for Gibson, or on the other end of the spectrum, they may have adjusted some things when they got him on board. There's definitely like one moment that's a little bit less, that's more goofy, that definitely was played into the fact that they had Gibson in particular. But some of the other stuff is a little bit more up in the air. This was a book before it was a movie. So, for instance, there's a fun nod to Mad Max, and there's a less fun nod in the John Link character kind of slipping into some casual racism thought process that it sounds like he maybe had a little bit in the past. And I did like how this movie played with that. Now, I don't think you should get confused with maybe some of the things that the film is saying, attributing it to Mel Gibson himself, because with Mel Gibson, at least from what I've read, there seems to be some confusingness, complications of like religion, situations, alcohol, friendships, and to me, I honestly lost a bit of interest in trying to figure that stuff out. So unless he's really clear about something himself, like in an interview, I wouldn't read into it too much. I think this is all the writer putting it in there, and he was just okay with it being put in there. It's hard to tell what would be from him and what is not, so I'm just going to attribute pretty much nothing aside from the fact that he was okay doing the material. And with that, that pretty much wraps things up. Don't smash that like button. We're trying to keep its virginity. Watch some other nice YouTubers' vids. Look in the suggested content area. Look for one that looks good. Watch that. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe. Stay 6 feet apart, farther than this camera is away from me. Enjoy my fun intro. Let's hope I don't get content struck on it or anything like that. Peace.